Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cigar Talk Show. It is absolutely my pleasure and an honor today to be here at the J.C. Newman factory with none other than Drew Newman. Drew.
Hey, Chuck. Welcome to El Reloj. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. El Reloj. Tell me a little bit about the name, because that's something that I've recently learned.
Sure.
That is, I know it's a very old name for this factory.
So El Reloj is the nickname of the factory. And as you know well, Tampa was the fine cigar capital of the world 100 years ago.
Right.
And there were 150 large cigar factories like this one, and everyone had a nickname. And this building is known as El Reloj, which means clock or watch in Spanish, because of our iconic clock tower that can be seen all around Ybor City here in Tampa. And so that's the factory's...
It's a definite landmark, no doubt about it. Yeah,
It is. You know, 100 years ago when this factory opened, there weren't wristwatches, and people didn't have clocks at home. And so the clock of this factory and its 1,500-pound bell that tolls every 15 minutes was how people knew when to wake up, and how they knew when to go to work and go to school and come home and have dinner and go to sleep. And so the clock of our factory was really the heartbeat of our neighborhood.
Fascinating. So I actually was very honored to take the tour again last month.
Oh, good.
After almost 10 years between the last tour I had.
It's changed a lot.
Holy cats,
Yeah.
that's a whole bunch of changes.
Yeah. I'm surprised
Very
you
nice.
got a tour 10 years ago, because up until 3 years ago, we really didn't have any
That's true.
public tours. This building was closed to the public.
We belong to a group that meets monthly. You may have
Okay.
heard of Ash Wednesday.
Yes, of course.
And Angie invited me to the very first one 12 years ago. So she was on episode number 2. We had her early in, but we still do the monthlies. And I was so thrilled to see all the improvements you've made in this area. And, you know, honestly, I love the cigar culture and lifestyle, which is more the reason I like to talk about cigars.
Yes.
Because you can buy them everywhere. You can enjoy them, well, almost anywhere. In Tampa, it's much more friendly with the cigar bars, of course. But the history and what happened, you know, in the heyday, we've had some recent news that was kind of a surprise development in the last couple of months. And I know you followed that very closely with the FDA overturning some very important things for hand-rolled cigars.
Right.
You care to talk about that?
Sure, happy to, but I feel like before you get there, we should highlight, though, Tampa's history as Cigar City.
Sure.
Because the city that we're in now, Tampa didn't exist before the cigar industry came here in 1885 and 1886. And so everything that developed in Tampa for more than a century was connected to the cigar industry. And Chuck, as you know as well as I do, that anyone whose family's been in Tampa for more than a couple of generations, your ancestor, your grandfather, grandmother, aunts, uncles, cousins, they rolled cigars.
They did.
Or made cigar boxes, or cooked lunches for the cigar workers.
The whole
Tampa
culture developed
really
around that.
Was a company town for the cigar industry. And so what we realized was, because El Reloj, this factory that we're in now, is the last factory still operating not only in Tampa, but this is the last traditional cigar factory in the United States.
In the United States now, right.
That if we didn't open this building up to the public, if we didn't have tours and events and cigar rolling classes, then that history would be lost, because there's nobody else left to tell it. And so, in celebration of our company's 125th anniversary 3 years ago, we changed. We went from having no tours, which you mentioned a few minutes ago, to starting offering guided tours every day and cigar rolling classes and events. And we went from having 0 visitors 3 years ago to this year we'll end up with 15,000 visitors in the factory.
That's incredible.
We'll have given 850 guided tours by the end of next month. Just this year, we will have 80 private events in this factory, from weddings to baby showers to corporate retreats. And we'll have taught 4,000 people how to roll their own cigars by hand right here.
That's also a new development. I saw that on the website.
So it's gone from 0 to 15,000 plus all these experiences, because we saw how so many wineries and distilleries and breweries all around the world have become destinations. And so we thought, why can't we, here in Cigar City, Chuck, make the first cigar tourist destination here in our 113-year-old cigar factory. And so my hope is that all of your viewers can come and experience the tradition of Cigar City here in El Reloj.
Well, that's our hope as well. And I have to say, my tour last month was really fascinating. It was a smaller group, but there was a couple that came over from Lakeland just for that day trip.
Yeah.
And, it's a 40-minute drive with traffic, maybe a little longer, but to, come all the way over I-4 and spend the day in the Tampa Ybor culture and the experience, this was the destination. This is why they came. So that's nice that even Floridians get to that destination event.
I mean, to be quite honest, it shocks me and my dad and uncle and all of our team that people want to come here.
Yeah.
But it's a privilege for us. It's a privilege for us to be able to share this craft and this tradition, these wonderful cigars, a process that hasn't changed in a century, and really keep it alive, because there's so many new things in Tampa, so many new things in the world, but we don't want to lose this art and this craft and this history that makes our community so special.
So I happened to be in Cleveland in March of this year, and was shocked to learn, being a resident of Tampa, that that's where J.C. Newman came from.
Exactly.
And the history behind the nickel cigars and the connection with the Army.
Yeah.
All of that story was fascinating. I saw a bit of a documentary. I want to say Netflix. It could have been other, but nonetheless, the story and the history of your family coming to Tampa. I've watched that since I moved here in 1985. Seeing the development of the premium hand-rolled industry has really been fascinating. I actually met with the Fuentes and didn't realize that family connection was really stronger than ever. You two have really revolutionized distribution, manufacturing, and shipping right here. And from a competitor for all intent and purposes.
No.
There's no such thing, right?
Our industry is very small.
Yeah.
And it's very friendly. And with a few exceptions, the premium cigar industry is just a bunch of families who've been doing business together for multiple generations. But really what brought the Fuente family and the Newman family together 30 plus years ago is that we were the last two Tampa cigar families left.
That's right. Yeah.
Going from 150 factories just like this one 100 years ago, every other factory closed down or moved overseas. And so it was Carlos Fuentes Sr. and my grandfather, Stanford Newman, who looked around, and they're the last two men standing in the cigar industry here in Tampa. So it made sense for us to join forces together and really support each other and support our families so that we can grow now into the fourth generation. We're a 128-year-old four-generation family business. They are another 100-year-old four-generation family business. And when I walk into a humidor, Chuck, and I look around at all the wonderful cigars from all over the world, what sets Arturo Fuente and J.C. Newman apart is that we are the two 100-year-old four-generation family businesses who are committed to be rolling cigars just like this by hand for another four generations in 100 years. And so that's a very special connection that we share and we work to keep alive.
Definitely a dynasty. And I say that in all love of the cigar industry, because there has been a resurgence. I think it was about 20 years ago, maybe 15 or so, where they brought back the Cigar Heritage Festival.
Yes, yeah.
And I had a studio in Ybor just down the road from there. So I met with some of the families and I met with the people that were there, and I was enthralled. Yeah. I was just learning cigars. But at that point, I had no idea of the integrated culture of not just families, not just different heritages and different lands, the Italians, the Cubans, the Americans, obviously, and how that all came together. And Ybor was the central destination for all of that.
Ybor City has an incredible history, and that's part of the story that we're trying to tell here, because so many cigar enthusiasts don't realize that Tampa and the Ybor City Historic Cigar District was the fine cigar capital of the world a century ago. More cigars were rolled by hand here in Tampa than in Cuba or anywhere else. And at its peak, there were 500 million handmade cigars made in Tampa every year. An incredible number, but when you think about Ybor City's origins in the late 1800s, post-Civil War, the South generally was not very integrated.
Right,
It was
true.
not diverse.
Right.
It was not multicultural. One of the very rare exceptions was Ybor City, because here in the cigar community, we had different languages and cultures and communities and people and immigrants from all around the world, from Europe, from Latin America, who came together, and they all got along.
Yeah.
And they all smoked cigars.
Yeah.
And so at a time of great sort of segregation throughout the American South, Ybor City was this diverse, rich, multicultural community, and it's a great history that we want to keep alive.
It is so wonderful to see you supporting that community, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention the improvements to this community that you've recently done. And I've seen the park, and I know
Right.
about the hotel.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that. This is
Sure.
fascinating to me.
So we're cigar makers, Chuck.
Yeah.
We roll cigars today by hand, just like my great-grandfather did 100 years ago.
Right.
And our only goal as a company is to roll cigars the same way by hand 100 years from now that we do today, the same way we did 100 years ago. That's it. But because we've sort of adopted this responsibility as the last factory left to become ambassadors
Sure.
for Tampa, the cigar industry, and our family, we've opened up our factory to, and we've had all these visitors. We've realized there's just a demand for more.
Yep.
People are coming in for a tour, tasting a class event, and they say, well, what else can I do? Where else can I go? And I'm like, well, I guess we've got to build it. And
The cigar theme park right
so
here.
That's kind of where we are right now,
Right,
Chuck.
yeah.
So we began by restoring this incredible, beautiful, 113-year-old iconic cigar factory.
Yep.
And now people come for a tour and they say, well, where can I go enjoy a cigar? So, well, we built a park across the street.
Yep.
That is almost finished. We're going to open it next month, and we're going to dedicate it to the cigar workers of Tampa.
Oh, marvelous.
The hundreds of thousands of people, like our wonderful team here, who've worked tirelessly and anonymously, really,
Sure.
to handcraft beautiful cigars for generations. And then now our visitors are saying, well, where can I stay? Where can I get a cup of Cafe Colnation? Where can I get a Cuban sandwich? So we're in the early stages of restoring the beautiful Sanchez y Haya building, also built in 1910 on the other side of our factory, and we're going to turn that into the way it was 100 years ago when
Wow.
it opened, with a hotel on the second floor, a cafe cigar lounge on the first floor, and hopefully that will be open in 2 years. And
Nice.
we're going to have plans to build a cigar tobacco bar, not really build one, but relocate one from North Florida that's 100 years old, and
Oh, wow.
reassemble it here as well.
Interesting.
So that we can show not only cigar manufacturing, but show how beautiful it is when cigar tobacco is being grown. How the plants are tall and bright green, and have these beautiful pink and purple flowers, and show the process of growing, of curing, of fermentation, really go from seed to smoke. And so that's going on as well. And hopefully we can really create a destination that celebrates the rich history of Cigar City.
So that actually is a perfect segue into this fine cigar that we're smoking at the moment.
Yes.
The American is just a beautifully handmade cigar with a fabulous wrapper, and I love this band, the double band actually, and you know, a little patriotic. I won't say that didn't get me, but the interesting part to me is it's made from American tobaccos.
Right.
Tell me about that, because I know some of it's actually made here in Florida as well.
Yeah. So when this factory opened in 1910, the very first cigar rolled in this building was the American.
Wow.
The American is a historic cigar brand that actually dates back to the late 1800s in New York City. That's where it was founded. And then it moved to Tampa when this factory opened in 1910. And so when we were starting to restore this factory and wanted to create a flagship cigar rolled by hand here in El Reloj, we just looked back at our history and said, well, a perfect cigar to resurrect was the first cigar that was rolled here, the American. And what makes this cigar unique is that it's the first and really only cigar that is made with 100% all-American tobaccos. So not only is it rolled here in the United States, but every leaf inside this beautiful cigar was grown in America. The outer wrapper is a Florida sun-grown. It's the only cigar featuring the Florida sun-grown wrapper, grown here by Jeff Borshowitz, just north of Orlando.
Oh, cool. Okay.
The binder is the traditional Connecticut broadleaf tobacco, grown just north of Hartford by our 8th generation family farmer.
Wow.
It also grows a little bit of the filler of the Connecticut Havana varietal, and the rest of the filler is grown by the Mennonites in Pennsylvania, who've been farming outside of Lancaster
I had no idea.
since the 1600s.
That's amazing.
And so the cigar really celebrates the American cigar tradition that dates back to 1612. And what's amazing about the American is that not only is every piece of tobacco grown in the United States, and not only is it rolled here in the United States, but every part of the packaging is made in America as well. The boxes are made in Miami.
Yeah,
the hardwood
that's cool. Yeah.
from the United
Beautiful
States.
boxes,
The
yeah.
bands are printed in Orlando with paper from Wisconsin. The stain in the boxes is from North Carolina. The inks are from Illinois. Even the clasp, the
Wow.
hinges in the boxes are made in Massachusetts. So from start to finish, it's an all-American cigar that highlights who we are, which is we're the oldest cigar company in America, the last cigar factory left here in the
Yeah.
United States, and it's just an amazing cigar with an amazing story that celebrates the rich American cigar tradition.
What a fantastic story, and again, a fabulous smoke. I can't say enough about it.
It's unique.
It is very
It's a very
unique.
unique flavor
That's,
profile.
and that's what I was about to say, is that I've never tasted one that's quite like that. That being said, there's always a little uniqueness to every cigar because of its hand rolled,
Yeah.
ability to blend those tobaccos, and I've seen the rolling process, and I'm really just thrilled and shocked to be sitting here in the room while they're being made. It's really
Isn't it
fascinating to see that.
I love it.
When I came for the tour, we didn't have this opportunity, and now to see these people hard at work doing it.
Yeah.
But more importantly, this stage has a history as well.